Oh my god, how much I have missed Overlord. Just seeing so many different scenes throughout this episode, not just the bath towel scene, to where for some reason he has to have a towel even though he is a skeleton. It's not just that scene, that's just absolutely hilarious. There's other scenes, like little mini scenes, like the scene with the mirror, with Ainz is like, you know, doing the silence and all that. I just like, oh my god, like they perfectly captured Ainz' character from the light novel. Like, okay, let's just get right into that, okay? Ainz, as we all know, even if you're anime only, we always have known that Ainz is very insecure. He lacks confidence. He wants to be a great boss, a great ruler, a great king. He wants to be someone that is, you know, high power, that showcases and acts like a proper leader. And in this case, when he's in front of his mirror, we get to see what he does in his free time where nobody's watching him, and how he tries to, you know, showcase this side of him where he's a noble and respectable ruler. And so when he's just sitting there like silence and all that in front of the mirror and just doing that type of stuff, it's like what you would see someone trying to do getting ready for like a date or something. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is why I love Ainz, because he has so many insecurities, and this is something that he constantly does throughout the light novel, and I'm just glad that we got to see something like this in the anime. And I don't think that scene would have been as good if it wasn't for the way the camera angle was done right above Ainz, but also the voice actor and the way he just said it, like the way the lines came out, was just absolutely hilarious. But okay, so anyways, before I get any further with, you know, this episode and talking about it, you know, we're finally back. Overlord Season 3 is finally back. We finally get to see new content, which I have been waiting for a good long while, because even though some didn't like Season 2 because it wasn't Ainz focused, I have loved the recent stuff we've gotten of Overlord, like Season 2 and now Season 3. It's been fabulous. And so because of that, I'm just like, I couldn't wait for this episode to finally come out. Tuesday arrived, Overlord came out. I was just like, yo, what? Like, honestly, I did not know Overlord was going to air today. For some reason, I had it in my mind that it was going to air sometime this weekend, but when I, you know, woke up this morning, got up early, and then all of a sudden I saw how Overlord was, you know, being shown that it was out. I was like, wait, what? Overlord is out? So I got really excited and decided to watch it. So yeah, I'm just glad to finally see it back. I think many can agree with me that we're all happy to see this series back. It was one of, I think, everybody's favorites a couple of seasons ago from, you know, Winter of Anime 2018. So I'm just glad to see, you know, back once again where we can watch new content. So before we go any further, I do want to make sure all of you are very aware of this, mainly you anime onlys, because the light novel readers are already aware, but this season of Overlord is going to be a little bit more Ainz focused. There is going to be other characters taking the spotlight. I'm not going to say that that's not going to happen, but there will be a lot more Ainz content throughout this season, if it goes by the content I am thinking about in my mind. So yeah, if you're one of those type of people that really want Ainz, you want more Ainz, you will probably be getting a lot more Ainz, epic moments and stuff like that throughout this season, so do not worry. Now, other things to also talk about as well, I do want to mention that the opening ending song, oh my god, like, I believe that they actually switched the opening song's, you know, vocals with also the ending songs. Like, for instance, the person that normally does the opening song is doing the ending song for Season 3 of Overlord, while the people normally doing the ending song are now doing the opening song for this season of Overlord, which I think is very weird, because we're so used to this certain band doing the opening song, and now they're doing the ending. It's very weird. They just have swap places, which I'm fine with. I mean, that opening song, holy crap, the amount of details to the lip syncing with Shaltir and Albedo, just like, man, they put a lot of effort into that opening. And, you know, let's be real here, Overlord, as its art and animation, it's not usually the best, okay? Let's face the facts here. Art and animation for Overlord is always, like, average, slightly above average, and, you know, it was dipping below average in Season 1 of Overlord. And so, it's never been, like, the go-to for art and animation. But I will say, in terms of opening-wise, that was probably the best opening in terms of visuals. That really stunned me with how good that was done. And also, just seeing how the animation throughout this episode was, it was also a lot better, it seemed, compared to the previous seasons of Overlord. Even though this was just mainly a slice-of-life episode. So that's just something that boggled my mind as well while watching this week's episode. So anyways, I do want to mention mention that this also is a intermission arc or a side story volume that we're getting into right now, volume 8, that there, you know, if you've ever read light novels, you may have not read Overlord, but you might have read light novels, usually there's like a volume that is dedicated to side stories and stuff. That's kind of what we're getting into right now. Basically, what's going on in this, you know, episode and probably the upcoming episodes is going to be side stories to certain characters, kind of getting us up to speed of what's been going on the side. And so these first couple episodes, I think the content is going to be quick, like we're going to be able to get through it quite quickly, but overall though, it's going to be kind of setting up some stuff with certain characters in the future of this season, but also just, you know, having a little bit more slice of life moments and stuff before we get into the really good stuff of this season. So I just want to mention that we're getting into like side story stuff, and that's kind of what this episode was about. And personally, I love this episode. It was absolutely hilarious to get to see the daily life of Nazarick, like the, you know, civilians and all the people within Nazarick. It was nice just to see them in their natural environment and how they go about their day-to-day life, which, let's get into that. Let's talk about Ainz' situation, what was going on, and why he acted like he did multiple times throughout this episode. Now, many of you anime-onlys, not trying to put you down or anything, but the anime sometimes does fail to kind of explain certain things. I'm not saying the anime is bad by any means, but it does fail to explain sometimes, with certain reasons to why Ainz acts like he does. Now, you could put A and B together and kind of figure it out, but sometimes I feel like it doesn't do its best to properly explain everything, mainly when it comes to why Ainz acted the way he did. For instance, why the maids were on schedule and all that, and why they came in like they did. Ainz wants his privacy. He doesn't want nobody coming around. He wants the maids to take time off. He wants to be able to have alone time as well, because if the maids and all the NPCs in Nazarick had it their way, they would always be there. They would always be around Ainz, protecting him, never letting him have a moment to himself. And because majority of them are undead or different types of creatures, they actually don't even need to rest. Which is why Albedo and Shaltir and all that, when we saw them in this episode and they were having some time off, basically, they didn't really know what to do because they always have dedicated themselves to work, and because they're undead and they don't really need sleep or rest, they can just do whatever they want. So basically, the point here is that, you know, Ainz wants to teach them that you don't always need to be around me, have some time of your own, do what you need to do and all that, and, you know, basically, he has to now deal with a scheduling system where the maids come in at a certain given time to watch over him throughout the day. He also has the 8-bladed assassins, or edge-blade, I forget the exact name or whatever, basically the ant people in, you know, this episode, you know, watching over him. He has them all on a scheduled time to watch over him, and that's why he acted like he did, why that schedule like that was coming in with the maid, and why she was watching over Ainz. But also, let's talk about the big problem or the issue that Ainz is trying to tackle, which we saw him trying to do throughout the, you know, second season of Overlord. He's been trying to teach his, you know, NPCs, his children, they need to be able to think for themselves. They don't need to always, you know, rely on Ainz to come up with every single decision. He was trying to teach, you know, Cocytus in, you know, the last season to, you know, form his own plan, be a general to watch over the village and ask for what he wants. And then, you know, he was also trying to teach other characters throughout. You know, Shaltir learned a valuable lesson. And, you know, he wants, you know, the characters to realize that they could fail, you know, they could succeed. He wants them to learn how to think for themselves, come up with their own plans and all that. You know, do things that he didn't order them to do. He wants them to become their own individual, have their own ambitions. That's what he wants. And you can see in this episode, he's like, we need to correct that with the NPCs. Basically, they just want to be workaholics. They want to work 24 hours a day, no breaks whatsoever, and they think that's fine. Ainz doesn't want to do that. He wants them to be able to cherish their time. He wants them to be able to go about their day on certain times of the week, you know, relax or whatever. He doesn't want them to continuously work like some form of sweatshop, never break, no breaks whatsoever. So that's kind of why he acted like he did. He wants the NPCs to be able to have time of their own, and that's also why he's been giving multiple gifts to the individuals to allow them to know that their work is not going unnoticed. And so yeah, that was a very nice moment in this episode. It was slightly explained, but I just wanted to get everybody up to speed of what that kind of meant. Now, we also have a very adorable scene with the girls, you know, the best girls of this series. We get to see Shaltir and Albedo. They're outside and all that, and Shaltir's basically talking to Albedo, and Albedo tries to summon her war horse. Her war horse apparently is a bicorn, and she can't ride it whatsoever. As soon as she tries to ride it, it sits down and doesn't want to move, which is very weird. You're like, why? What's going on here? And we come to find out the reason why is because Albedo, she is a pure maiden, which I thought the scene, the way it was done with Shaltir and them, they were talking about Albedo, like, pure maiden, like, what? Like, their faces were absolutely shocked. It was hilarious because, in all honesty, normally in this situation, they would be, like, shocked to find out that someone is a pure maiden, or, you know, like an unpure maiden, okay? But finding out that, you know, actually Albedo was, you know, a pure maiden, not corrupted whatsoever, you're like, of all characters, really? And it kind of makes sense when you think about it, because Albedo, she is a succubus, which is deeply in love with Ainz. Now, just FYI, as you know, succubus, they are creatures of, you know, lust, you know, the flesh and stuff. That's what they are. And you would think someone like Albedo, she would, you know, definitely not be a pure maiden by any means, but thanks to Ainz changing her settings, she now is pretty much entirely dedicated to him, and is not doing what a normal succubus would do. So I find that entire bit very funny, and then eventually it leads to this build-up point towards the end of the episode, where she legit attacks Ainz, and oh my god, like, okay, let's get into that scene and kind of what that meant. Ainz was a little bit scared in that scene, and it's not just because of what Albedo was trying to do, but also because in terms of their combat strength, Albedo is way stronger, because I've kind of talked about this in my Season 1 episode reviews and Season 2. Even though Ainz, he is the supreme being, he's the ruler of Nazarick, there is many NPCs that are amongst him that are honestly stronger than him. Albedo is definitely one of those that would put up a very decent fight. Shaltir is someone that Ainz honestly would never be able to win against if, you know, she would have had the experience of an actual player from the original game. So Ainz has a few people around him that honestly he would not really be able to beat in a straight up fight. And Albedo, her stats, she is more physical, she's an up-close fighter, and she's a tank. So because of that, you know, Ainz couldn't really do much. I mean, he's just a little spellcaster. If a tank and a close-range fighter gets right up on you, you're not going to be able to do much. So technically, Albedo was way stronger than him in that moment, and he couldn't really do much at all to really stop her. So that was the funny part about that. It was like a little bit of humor for RPGs and stuff, or MMORPGs, but this is something that's been building up for a while. But that's slightly why he was a little bit terrified, is because spellcaster versus a tank that was like right up on him, he can't get away. Yeah, there you go. But, anyways, Albedo, I loved her in this episode. She was a great character from start to finish, and oh my god, just the way she acted towards Ainz, like, how she wanted to go into the men's bath, that was hilarious. Like, yo, I love reversals. Like, I really love the reversal to scenes like this, because I'm so used to seeing the guy characters wanting to sneak into the bath, but now seeing the women characters doing this sometimes, it's just pretty funny. And, I mean, just seeing how a golem apparently activated to stop, you know, Albedo and all of them for, you know, doing whatever they were trying to do, sneak into the bath, I thought that was pretty great as well. But okay, so anyways, enough of Albedo for a second. Let's talk about, you know, Shaltir. So, Shaltir, she had a interesting scene when we were talking about the pure maiden Albedo. She mentions that she is into Yuri. She's had some Yuri moments with people. So that's pretty fascinating, which, as we know, her creator is a very interesting fellow. For instance, someone that has a lot of fetishes and all that. And so, obviously, she's just like a walking fetish encyclopedia. That's what Shaltir is. And seeing how she said something like that, it makes perfect sense, because, I mean, her creator, how the creator was, I wouldn't put it past the creator to have something like that with Shaltir's, you know, character design. So, it's pretty funny, and just like, I know many fans of Shaltir are probably going to be very excited about that scene. So, anyways, okay, let's talk about character designs for a second. So, the, 8-legged or 8-bladed assassins, I forget exactly their exact title. I know it's like 8 something, but you saw them in this episode. I didn't imagine them to look like ants. I'm going to be honest here. For some reason, I always figured they were like ninja type looking characters, because I don't believe in the light novel we really ever got a description on the way those, you know, knights are watching over Ainz. Like, we never really got a description, if I'm correct. And so seeing them look the way they did, CGI and all that, I'm like, huh, that's very strange. That's not what I expected them to look like. Like, it's not bad, but I just didn't expect them to look like that. So that kind of threw me off for a second. Also, we got a very brutal scene with Demi. So we go from, like, pure maiden Albedo to Demi's human farm. So let me kind of get you guys up to speed, because it's been a while, you might have forgotten. if you remember, in Season 2, Demi was experimenting with humans. He had it to where, he was literally shaving their skin off to make scrolls. And he implied that's what he was doing, you know, human bone chair, all sorts of, you know, crazy things. And it was even implied that he was feeding, you know, each other. You know, he's, like, for instance, killing some of them and feeding them to each other. So, he was having humans eat their own family and friends, basically, which is just... It's horrific when you think about it. There's some really twisted stuff that Demi has done, and even though it's never downright stated that he's doing it to humans, it's pretty obvious when you put the pieces together. It's supposed to be this very mysterious thing, but it's right in your face, and you know what's kind of going on. And it kind of explained that scene to where we had, like, the different, you know, species trying to have, you know, a relationship. That's basically Demi trying to figure out if he can make, like, weird hybrids between humans and other races. And that's messed up when you really think about what he's probably doing to those humans. I mean, it's definitely not, the way the doctor was talking about, how, like, you know, saying, oh, how pure, this is amazing, you know, they're having their love, they're being able to bridge the gap between the species. Like, yeah, in normal circumstances, I would agree with you, but it's very apparent that, the individuals in question, the different species, humans or whatever species that Demi is trying to mate with them, obviously they're not doing it willingly. They're not having it to where they're happy or they really are in love with another species. They're also being forced. So I find that scene very dark and eerie, just to kind of like shake up the mood a little bit, because you have all this happy funny stuff going on, and then all of a sudden you see this stuff with Demi and you're like, yeah, this is a great reminder just how messed up that individual is and what he'll do. I mean, even what Solution did in this episode when, you know, she was asking for a reward and all that. He's like, give me a bunch of humans, live humans and all that, you know, innocent ones. I'm like, Solution, like, come on now. And I was like, I'll give you humans, but not innocent ones. So I'm just like, man, Solution and Demi, they're really messed up. But FYI, their karma, it's like, one's negative 400, one's negative 500. So they're like as low as karma as they possibly can get. So, I mean, it makes sense why they're completely evil. They're literally like straight fiends. So, yeah. But that's, I think about it when it comes to this episode of Overlord. I mean, it's a very chill episode. A lot of great moments. I mean, if you like Ainz, you're going to love this episode. If you like Albedo, you're going to love this episode. If you like Shaltir, you're going to love this episode. If you like just seeing slice-of-life moments and seeing insight to Nazarick, you're also going to love this episode. So, it's a pretty decent start to Overlord Season 3, I think. I cannot wait to see the upcoming events, especially certain scenes I saw in the opening I'm not going to talk about exactly because spoiler reasons. But anyways, I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.